Hello, today I'm going to be painting this little mountain scene with the little path, and I'm using my iPad on Procreate, and I'm using the selection tool in Procreate, using the freehand and using the color fill option, which is the little bucket, and this helps me create big shapes quickly. And one thing that's quite nice is it has hard edges, and for my style that works quite well. I like to have kind of a vector look without really doing the vector, and because vectors, takes a lot of time, so this is nice and quick. I like to paint quick, so what I'm really trying to do here is blocking lots of big shapes on each layer so I can paint over the top. So I've already started phase 2 basically, where it is to pick out the highlights of where the sun's coming from. In this particular painting, it's coming from the top left. So I'm very aware when I make these shapes and where I put the highlights that I make sure that everything's consistent from the top left. And it might look kind of random, but it's all based on where the light is coming from. So one thing to note about the mountains is a mistake I used to make quite often, is when you have highlights, you got to make sure that you have detail in the shadow sections. Sometimes you might want to leave them completely flat, but what makes it look more interesting is that you have detail in the shadow. You have just as much detail in the shadow as the highlight areas actually, but it's just darker, so you can't really see it as much. But if you paint it subtly, it makes quite a big difference. So try that out and you'll see your paintings elevate quite a lot. So really all you have to do is, when you do the highlight colors, pick that color and drop it down so it blends in with the dark side a lot more. So one thing I do with the clouds, which I generally don't do anywhere else, is I'll use the smudge tool. I stay away from the smudge tool generally because I want my sharp edges. So as you can see, I'm using the color fill tool here again, and I'm very wary again of where the sun is, or the highlight area. It doesn't have to be sun, but in this case it is. So top left, and I angle all my shapes, and usually I hold the brush in such a way that it's kind of pointing towards the sun, so I make the shapes correctly. And one thing I'm doing here on these little fence posts is again making sure that the sun is coming from the top left and hitting the tops, and a little bit of the fronts. Now one thing that's good about these fence posts is it makes a lot of depth, because you can see through them and past them, and you have the difference in scale. So because that fence post on the bottom left is really big, you can tell that the last fence post in the distance is like 20 feet away, 30 feet away, or whatever, something like that, and it gives you depth. Now you kind of know that it goes really far away because you don't see any more of these fence posts, so it kind of gives you a lot of depth without too much effort, to be honest. And overlap is one of the best things to get depth quite easily. So these little wires coming out of the fence post do that too, because you can see the grass behind it, stones behind it, that kind of thing. So it gives you a good perception of depth, which is quite hard in landscape paintings, because obviously we're taking 3D and flatten it, and one thing we're going to lose is depth. And even if you take photos, we lose depth too. It flattens everything. So now I'm really just trying to add a bit of finesse to the painting, and one thing that's cool to do with shadows, if you go around the edges of the shadows and you use like an orange or a red, it kind of makes them pop, like the sun is crazy strong hitting these. You get on like a hazy day. I'm not entirely sure why. There's probably a scientific reason, but if you take those shadows and put a red or orange, it works with both, and put them around the shadow, it looks like the sun is a lot more powerful. You can do it in the sky too. I probably should have. So for my sky, it's kind of monochrome, slightly blue, but I probably could have put a hint of orange in there to make the sun look more powerful. I'm still learning how to paint the sun very well. In any way whatsoever. The sun is very complicated. It hits things and it does all sorts of stuff with color. Very interesting things, and I'm still learning myself. So now I'm just finishing off with little details, blending things in so it doesn't stick out as much. But really, mostly the painting was done a while ago, so now I'm just fiddling. So if you found this useful, give me a sub and a like, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.